Yeah, slightly different to last week. We had a few problems, and I mentioned it after the game. A couple of illnesses, some issues with players. Were they going to be available? Weren't they? Much smoother week, bright week, positive week after a difficult result, of course. But guys are in a good place. Looking forward to probably the toughest challenge here, I would think, at this stage of the season against an informed Cincinnati side.
Thank you, Coach. We are going to open the floor for questions. Claudio, feel free to ask your follow-ups as well.
Thank you. Gary, Cincinnati comes into town undefeated, playing good football since last season. They ended up pretty well in the playoffs. What's different in this team from your studies that you have made of them in terms of what they bring to the table this time, especially because they've changed a lot of the players?
Yeah, I mean, this evolution in their group has been going on for a period of time. I think we could certainly point to the fact that since Pat's gone in, Chris Albright as the GM there, the mentality around the group, some of the recruitment in the group has improved. And I think along with that, you've got a couple of players that have started to blossom as well, and the obvious one to point towards is Brenner, who in the past has had a big price tag and probably not met that. That criticism was probably a little bit harsh on the boy at 18 years of age, coming into MLS, very challenging league. But we're starting to see a very different player now. He's grown, his experiences around the league. I would think the fact that a Premier League side has, if we're listening to the press, have come in for him. Huge confidence boost. But I think the bottom line is they've got a shape, they've got a group, they've got a mentality that are far different to the first couple of years they were in the league. The credit around that, I think, has got to go to Pat, the way he works, and the staff he's got there. You've got Dominic Kinnear, who's won titles. Kenny Arena, who's very experienced. These guys that are obviously preparing the group, and Pat being at the point of that, have got them in a very good place, and they're a good side, and it will be a challenge.
Gary, tactically, you had to do some stuff in the last game because of not only the injuries, people that you don't have available, but all the players that were playing with issues like Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Case in point. Is that getting any better for this week in terms of what the 11 you're going to have in the field?
Yeah, an awful lot better, as I said in the opening statement. Walker in particular had a very, very tough week. I wasn't even sure he was going to make the field on match day. The fact that he played 90 minutes is, a minor miracle. But in terms of preparations and maybe one or two things that I wanted to try and help him with and the team with, because his presence is so unique on the field. It altered a couple of things for the group, but nevertheless, I honestly thought our performance there was as good as we've seen in New England. This week has been far different. Those guys have had a good week. I think the fact that we lost by the odd goal and the disappointment of that has resonated in the way that the players have worked this week. Good aspirations, great start in the first 3 games, and the challenge for us is to make sure we continue that form here.
How close is Aníbal?
Very close, yes. Caution last week in taking him. His work during the week had been pretty decent, but certainly some things that we would both look at. He obviously felt, and I looked at and thought, you're not quite where you need to be. Completely different look this week. I think slowly but surely he's coming to terms with, what the injury was and how his body's getting over it. And you can normally tell by people's personality and attitude during the work. He looks like he's back to himself. Very bright. More importantly, a lot of tenacious work in his game, that physical contact that we've seen so much of with him. so much better than I saw him last week. He's moving in leaps and bounds.
Thank you, Claudio. We're going to transition to Ben Wright.
Yeah, Gary, Cincinnati has pretty consistently played out of the back three since pretty soon after Pat took over. You've obviously been pretty familiar with that shape. You've played with it a good bit, but from your perspective, like maybe what are some of the challenges of playing against that type of system?
Well, I think I've said this before. I know I did in the lead up to the Montreal game. Dependent on how we're going to go about our business, you can make it very, very clear and match these teams up, and therefore your opposing target, opponent is clear and concise. And we might say, you know what, we're going to have a go at this, and we think that at home we're better than you. And if we don't, then the systems are going to be very, very different. And, you know, you might see something similar to previous home games, which dimensionally makes a completely different look to the game. And you're then looking at teams that, you know, try and dominate certain periods of the game. We saw it here with Montreal. They got on top for a period. They looked good with the ball, although there were aspects of our game and players out there that obviously made a world of difference. So I think me divulging what we're going to do or how we're going to play, Ben, would at least give their staff the opportunity to be ready. And it's very unlike me, as you well know, to make that too clear. What I will say is this: the way that they play and some of the aspects of their game, we've already spoken about the forwards. You know, whether it's Brenner and Vasquez or Santos, who is very, very effective, but with a Costa underneath that we would expect to play. It is an exciting trio of players and creatively tough to deal with. Throw into the equation with two wing-backs who like to get on the front foot and want to get forward. You know, they stretch the game through the middle and vertically, and also, of course, horizontally and across the field. And if we don't put ourselves in the right shape and the right place, then before you know it, the game's got away from you. And that's the last thing I want to happen here.
Ben, do you have any follow-ups?
Yeah, I do. Gary, obviously your rivalry with Cincinnati goes all the way back to 2018. I'm thinking even back to Tucker Humes scoring at Nippert Stadium and doing the Big Bird celebration. From your perspective, where does this stack up in terms of maybe some of the other rivalries that you've built up in MLS?
Well, I do think, and I think I said this earlier part of the week to someone that I did an interview with, there's a real, I think, an energy and an excitement around this fixture. There's never been, I don't think, I mean, maybe somebody will tell you something different, but there's never been that real animosity and anger and edge, you know, nasty edge to this game. It's been more about two rivalry teams not far apart, coming into the league, you know, just a year apart, and competing almost from a level playing field. And there have been some terrific games. You know, even if we've edged the game, and I remember going to their place, their new stadium, and going 3-1 down in the first period, 3-0 down in about 20 minutes, and winning 6-3. It was a crazy affair. What I will say is the team that we're going to face is a long way from that. They've moved in a very positive direction. They'll be very confident. I think there's a large part of them that would like to put us in our place. I do think that. But I think you get that in any rivalry. And, of course, we want to make sure we stay on top, being 4 hours apart. But, as I say, I've never felt anything more than you know, an energy and an excitement about this game. And I think that's borne out with the players and the staff. There's a lot of respect for the guys that are in charge and what they've achieved and some of the relationships I've had along the way with those guys. And of course, for their team. They've got a great balance. They've got some terrific creativity. But they've also got some guys in that group now, you know, the Miazgas and the Hagelins, who are tough guys. You know, they've been around the league. They've got terrific experience, and I think all good teams have got those types in their group.
Then is that it for you?
One more if possible.
One minute.
Yeah, Gary, you super quickly, you touched on Anibal and his status. Do you have any updates on Randall? How's his injury progressing?
He's moving very well, but again, he won't be available this weekend. I think I mentioned last week that as soon as he gets to that point where he's with the group, and he hasn't been this week, we're hoping he will be next week. He's got some reasonable work done out on field, but without that team play and bodies around him. You know, we want to make sure, given that it's the second hamstring injury he's had, that if we need to give him a little bit longer than that as well, we will. But he's moving nicely. And of course, the sooner we can get him back in, the better. There isn't anything better for the group than competition. And he certainly provides that.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you taking the
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah, like you said, we've been, doing well, very, very solid in defense. I think that begins with the habits that we create as a team. Getting the most out of everyone, whether it's from the back four to the midfield to the strikers, everyone from the goalie as well. So I think as a collective group, we've been doing great, and hopefully we can keep it going.
Shaq, what are the, what is the experience in the MLS especially? When you see a team coming like Cincinnati, which is undefeated, playing good football, what is the main thing for a back line to be aware of when you face a team like that coming in?
I think just to keep it tight. Obviously, they have a lot of guys that play in between lines, so we want to make sure we keep it tight and also communicate to the midfielders in front of us. To let them know, the right shoulder, left shoulder, where they're at, and also just be tight as a unit. Obviously it takes the whole team to kind of get results, but yeah, like you said, it definitely starts with the goalkeeper, who Joe has been doing a great job, and the back line as well.
Was it different for you in terms of, one of the guys that, since you came to the team and obviously throughout your career, you like the back and forth, the box-to-box play, and you do that well. Was it different on the last game in terms of what you had to hold back a little bit because of Zimmerman not feeling that well?
Yeah, it was a different role. Obviously, like you said, I like to, go up and down and create from a team. But that game kind of called for a different role. Obviously, Walker was, under the weather, so I knew I kind of had to, hold for a little bit, and also that threat with Borrero, who was playing, who's done really well too as well. So it just was a different role. Obviously I'm here to help the team wherever I can. So whenever the coach needs me, I'll play there.
How different it is for the team? I mean, especially when you go to a place like New England, which is difficult, the field and everything else, and then you come back home. Is that a relief in many ways, not only because you're home, but also because of the field conditions and the weather?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Obviously, playing at home, you're comfortable. Obviously playing here as well in this beautiful field, you always feel, more at home. Obviously, you gotta adapt to a different field there in New England. The surface is, took a bit to get used to, but yeah, it's always great to be back home. Try to, reverse the bad result that we got last game, and yeah, that's what we're gonna try to do on Saturday.
Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, Shaq, good to talk to you. If I'm not mistaken, I believe your first game, like in the squad for Nashville, was against Cincinnati last year. Have the guys? Is there any difference from your perspective? I think there, at least from a fan perspective, there's maybe a little bit of a rivalry between the two teams. Have the guys talked to you at all about that, or is it even like a thing with the players? Is it just another game for you guys?
Yeah, I kind of read about it, in this week, saying it's a rivalry going back to USL days. I think they came into MLS maybe around the same time that we went, maybe a year later. So yeah, we relish the rivalry. Obviously, we know they're a good team. We respect all the teams, but we also we're at home, and we know we want to compete and get the results. So obviously, we go in there with open mind, respect for the team, but yeah, we want to get all 3 points.
Carry on, Ben, if you have any other questions.
Yeah, I have one follow-up if possible.
Yes?
Shaq, Lucho Acosta, Brenner, and Brandon Vasquez are probably up there with some of the best attacking trios in MLS. Does anything change on your end with how you want to approach defending them compared to some of the other teams you faced, or just do things kind of stay the same for you guys and how you approach the game defensively?
Obviously, with every game, there's little, different adjustments you have to make. Like you said, they have, really good players up top, but certain principles always stay the same. Whether that's aggression, whether that's, close down space, whether that's, stay tight, communicate with the guys in front of you, the guys behind you. So, I think in that aspect, it kind of stays the same. Obviously, maybe you got to be a little more on your, P's and Q's, knowing that these guys with, any little chance they can hurt you. So, we've worked on that, this week, and yeah, I think we'll be all right going forward into the game.
Thank you, Shaq, and thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you on the weekend.
Thank you.